So, any news about the bridges we have built? So, I guess, Joe, the question would be: so, what are the updates for the bridges that we're building right now, Rosen Bridge and whatnot?
Sure.
So, what say you?
Well, let's start with a little bit of backstory, since it's an AMA. I think yesterday, unfortunately, the one bridge was exploited for about 100 mil. That puts the net value that's been hacked on bridges at about $500 million this year, which is pretty wild to kind of think about. So Ergo actually has been in the bridge infrastructure and research thing for almost the better part of a year. And we've been watching and learning from the different exploits that have happened in the space. We at one point were about ready to roll out Sussy, which is a wormhole variant, and then that was exploited on a different chain. So we kind of went back to first principles and said, okay, well, how can we really distribute trust and make this infrastructure more difficult to attack? And we came out with the Rosen Bridge. The Rosen Bridge right now is built in pieces. It actually is on testnet. I know that MHS and team of developers that he works with are currently testing it, trying to break it, and that's basically the general testnet experience. Good news is things seem to be progressing pretty well, and I do believe this Wednesday he said that we would see some more concrete results. I do think that Rosen really offers some better assumptions just because there's two different parties or layers that need to interact with each other, but neither has the ability to act independently. And the game theory behind it is if we see a malicious actor on one of the two levels, you have the ability to stake slash them, which is kind of like an economic punishment. So I think we'll see that roll out. I think last I heard, he was expecting about 2 to 3 weeks. But it's a work in progress, and whenever you have a work in progress, the most important thing is always bug hunting and making sure that everything is working as intended. So that's, if we're going to try to build a bridge framework that's based on, like best security practices, we need best security practices in development and implementation. I do believe the first bridge is going to be on Cardano. I know he's already building on the Cardano testnet side, the Ergo testnet side, and I'm looking forward to, seeing that initial testnet transactions, playing around with, seeing how things are moving across. I do know that Ergo Dex naturally has a foot in the Ergo ecosystem and a foot in the Cardano ecosystem, and they also have a pretty nice UI that's pretty performant in terms of switching back and forth, which on their website is just a button. So I do actually think they are going to support a user interface on their DEX that should give the user experience of Rosen, pretty seamless approach to where, you're transferring, at least from the user perspective, from one instance of the DEX to another instance of the DEX on the same website, and hopefully that drives some adoption. I know there's also been research into other blockchains. Now, the general framework or pattern action is going to be the same, but there are always some assumptions that need to be implemented that are chain specific. That has to do with block time and Nakamoto consensus, and in a way, the guardians and watchers need to come up with some consensus in terms of what settlement time is going to look like. Obviously, when you're talking about that block height, as it gets higher, it gets a little bit more secure. And because you have actors making calls to verify transactions, actually having a little bit more block height to where different validators or guardians are looking at different blocks, you get some diversity, which actually increases the assumptions. So I'm looking forward to seeing that roll out. So work in progress. You know, I wish I could say this date, but I think the most important thing is that it's done right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, because we see what happens when things are done fast. It's just, you know, you don't want to mess around with these things, because I'm sure that everybody will be more happy with this thing taking a month longer than with this thing taking $100 million hack.
Yeah, that's painful. I mean, um, sad.